You're in a fight, what do you do first? And you could lean forward without falling forward. Block and hit somebody, drive your punch, your palm heel, whatever technique you're gonna throw. I'm looking for wherever I could strike, the 1-inch punch, Vulcan death grip, dim mock, death touch. Get serious, pay attention. All right, so by now, I'm sure you've already watched our video on how to avoid a fight. You've tried to walk your way out, talk your way out, run your way out, anything you could do, and now you're in a fight. What do you do first? What's up, warriors? This is Kyoshi Dave Herman with 5 Elements Tactical Training, here to share with you some warrior skills and drills that anyone can learn and everyone should know. If you're new to the channel, welcome and thanks for stopping by. If you already follow us on social media and that's how you found your way over to this channel, go ahead and hit the subscribe button and the bell notification button so YouTube will let you know when the next video drops, and you get all sorts of cool content from here as well. All right, so you found your way over to this video and you're in a fight and you want to know, what do you do first? Well, if you're here for the 1-inch punch or the Vulcan death grip or the dim mock death touch, that's really not what this video is all about. If you know how to do it, put it in the comment section below, because I'd really like to learn how to do that one myself. Believe it or not, the first thing you need in a fight, before the punching and the kicking and the headbutting and the screaming and cursing and flailing and swinging, and before you are raining down blows upon your enemy, how are you going to stand up and get your guard up? How are you going to protect yourself from them hitting you? That's what's really first. The foundation. Think of somebody building a house. The first thing they do is they dig a big hole and they fill it with concrete. Because once that sets, you got a strong foundation. And when you're building on a strong foundation, the sky is the limit. First things first, let's get a good stance, a good guard, protect ourselves, prepare to engage. Get ready to fight. We're going to go over 5 basic stances that everybody should know before they wind up in a fight. These 5 basic stances are going to go from before the fight, leading up to the fight, and then of course when the fight pops off, and then in the course of a fight, the ones that you're probably going to rely on most. A fight is very fluid. It changes from like fraction of a second to fraction of a second. Completely situational. As soon as somebody does something a little bit different, your reaction has to be a little bit different. How you handle that or counter that or defend against it, it has to be a little bit different as well. Again, this is self-defense 101. Super basic stuff. Easy to learn, challenging to master. But here's how you start. All right, so the first stance we're going to go over is called the interview stance. The interview stance is kind of like if you saw somebody coming into your personal space, somebody you don't know, somebody clearly walking toward you, look like they want to ask you for directions, ask you to borrow $1 to get on a train, and ask if they could bum a cigarette or a light for their cigarette or whatever. Somebody you don't know is kind of approaching you. They look like you could definitely tell they're walking your way. It's when you take whatever stuff is in your hand, get it into your pocket so that your hands are free. Subtle step back to blade your body, preferably with your dominant side away or back. Your hands are above your waist in some sort of non-threatening fashion, but where they're clearly free and able to come up to defend yourself if you had to. So the interview stance basically looks like this. If you were starting in from what's called a natural stance, and you had your phone, you're sitting there texting your buddy, and you see somebody kind of coming toward you, put the phone away, small step back. As they approach, your hands come above your waist. Some people have their hands like this, or like this, or like this, or I don't like them locked together. I personally keep my dominant side under my non-dominant side, because if I had to pop up to my self-defense or fighting stance, which we'll get to in a moment, it's just simple. It's such a subtle move. But again, natural stance, small phone goes away, keys go away, hands are out of the pocket, hands are above the waist. Hey buddy, what can I do for you? How can I help you? No thanks, I'm not interested. No, sorry, I'm in a rush, I gotta go. So simple, that's your interview stance. In police work, we use an interview stance all the time. And really, it's part of it is to kind of keep your firearm side away from whoever it is you're talking to. Just to be, it's a good habit to get into. Whether you carry a folding knife, a box cutter, your whatever, man. Just keep your strong side back, because if you had to jump into action, that's the position you're going to want to be in, which again, we'll get to in a moment. So once again, the interview stance, we go from a natural stance, whatever stuff you have in your hands goes into your pockets. You take a ever so small or slight step back with your dominant side. Your hands are out of your pockets, hands free, above your waist, in some sort of non-threatening fashion so that you could look at the person, talk to the person, and have your hands ready in case you need them. The second stance is called self-defense stance. Now, I'm sure, depending on where you train, who you trained with, who's teaching it to you, it may go by a million different names. In our school, in our system, and the way I teach my defensive tactics, we call it self-defense stance. It is very similar to a fighting stance. If you had gone from your natural stance to your stuff away, hands above your waist, non-threatening fashion, to your interview stance, and a person was maybe closing the gap a little bit more so, or really invading your personal space, and you wanted them to back off, it's really important that you understand that you are always being filmed. So whether it's some lady's Ring doorbell, or the surveillance camera outside of a gas station or 7-Eleven or whatever, or somebody's taking a selfie in the background and you're in the background of their picture, all these things, God forbid, steps down the road could be brought back as evidence later on, and you always wanted to show that you were trying everything in your power to not fight. So a self-defense stance is a little bit of a bigger step back, hands up, palms forward. Hey, buddy, I'm really not interested. No, I don't have any money for you to get on the train. No, I'm sorry, I can't help you. Sir, please back up. Sir, back up. Sir, back up. Self-defense stance. So now, if he doesn't speak English, if they're hard of hearing, if they're drunk or cracked out or whatever it is, this is like the universal, hey man, back up. It's non-threatening. You don't want to fight. You shouldn't be doing it in an aggressive manner, preparing for aggressive manner, but everything is done in like, hey man, I'm trying to de-escalate the situation. I don't want any trouble. This is called self-defense stance. All right, so the next stance is fighting stance. And again, I'm sure there's a million different names for this one. We call it fighting stance. A couple things we got to cover first is one, if you're a righty, you'd prefer to have your right side back. If you're a lefty, left side back. Think of the way you would throw a ball, swing a bat, a racket, club, whatever. You typically have your non-dominant side forward and your dominant side behind you so that you could drive power into your swing, whatever type of swing that might be. So if you went from a natural stance to a interview stance to a self-defense stance, and all of a sudden it becomes a threat and a fight is imminent, from this position you could very easily cover. Basically what you're doing is you're going to curl your fingers as tight as you can, with your thumbs on the outside. Your hands protect your head. Your elbows protect as much of your body as you can. You don't want to cover your eyes. You want to make sure that you can see between there. And your feet get a little wider. You get a little bit lower. Hands up, elbows in, eyes forward, chin down, shoulders relax. And you're in a position where you can kind of shift forward and back and have some balance. Left and right and have some balance. You could duck, you could slip, you could maneuver, you could shoot forward, lunge back. It's an athletic position where you could move pretty easily and readily from the stance and also crack that dude if you gotta. Fighting stance. All right, for the next two stances, my buddy Bob over here is gonna help me demonstrate. He's a great partner. He doesn't look very friendly, but he's a great listener. And he never complains if I hit him too hard. It's a good training partner. So, we have our natural stance, our interview stance, our self-defense stance, our fighting stance. Now, we use the analogy of driving a lot of times in fighting. So like when you're going forward and pursuing your attack, you're in drive. When you're kind of like sitting there waiting to see what they're going to do, we call that neutral or park, but it's more like neutral because if they really took off on you, you're gonna wind up moving backwards, which shouldn't happen in park. And reverse, which is a direction we try not to go into unless you have to, unless it's momentarily. So a lot of times a fight starts off with somebody kind of pushing, and if you had to push back or you decided to like really just bring the fight to them, a lot of times the stance that you'll find yourself in is called a front stance or a forward stance. We call it front stance. I'm sure it has some other names. But a front stance is basically, if you ever had a car that ran out of gas and you had to push the thing, and you kind of get behind the car, you get one leg in front, one leg in back, and you kind of get some good posture, and you could lean forward without falling forward. So whether you're using it to like shove somebody to get off of you, that front leg bent, that back leg straight, that forward motion with some good posture, that's a front stance. A lot of times if you were to block and hit somebody, you'll find yourself in that front stance where you're blitzing forward, shifting your weight forward. You want to have good balance, good stability, You don't want to get knocked off balance or pulled off balance or throw yourself off balance. So a lot of times from that fighting stance, when you drive your punch, your palm heel, whatever technique you're going to throw, even if it's just like, hey, get off me, man, a lot of times you'll find yourself in a front stance. Front stance is the front leg bent, the back leg relatively straight. Hey, it's not like strict traditional karate, kung fu, taekwondo where it has to be this, perfect thing. The idea is that you're going forward and you want to have some stability. So you're really kind of pushing off and anchoring this down to help you drive your power forward. Your front leg is bent because your weight is on there, and that's kind of like the shocks under the car as well. Front stance, okay? All right, so this next stance, there's kind of like two different levels of it, or two different variations or modifications of the stance. The first one I'm going to do is called a horse stance. Now, if you've ever studied martial arts, karate, kung fu, taekwondo, or you've ever watched a karate class and you see them kind of in this like straddled stance where their feet are kind of side by side, double shoulder width apart, legs bent, back straight, practicing blocks and punches and stuff. Man, I did it for years, and I always thought it was just to strengthen our legs because I would never face somebody and say, hey man, back off, because you know what they're going to do to you, right? So there's a time and place for all these stances that are drilled into you in the martial arts for years and years and years. And probably the most common use for a horse stance, other than somebody putting you in a bear hug and you dropping down to settle your weight and get a position, is when you're like in the fight, it's almost inevitable that there's going to come a time where you clinch and you're holding on to one another. Now, if you, again, everybody has a different system or method for self-defense and fighting. I've been doing full contact stuff for a lot of years, and this is how I do it. So if you have a better way, I always want to learn new stuff too. Anyway, so a horse stance, a lot of times when people either like the fight gets so close, we're in here swinging, and either they grab you or you grab them, or you get tired and you're winded and you're kind of like hanging on to each other. The analogy is one, like if you ever tried to pick up a kid, a baby or something that wants to be picked up, and they put their hands up and they feel so light. And then other times that same exact kid, it could be a minute later, and all of a sudden they're in a bad mood, and you go to pick them up, and they didn't gain any weight. They didn't put any bricks in their pocket. All of a sudden they feel heavy. It's a matter of dropping your weight. So when you're in close and you're fighting and you wind up in that clinch, I don't want it to like drop down and grab my legs and throw me on my head or something. So the way I do it, the way our system does it, we kind of like pull those hips back, control the head, pull them down, and I'm looking for wherever I could strike, headbutt, whatever, but my hips are back, my feet are wide, I'm pulling his head down, looking either to drive him headfirst into the floor, wherever I could hit him, or if I'm going to move to drive him or throw him or toss him. But again, the stance is going to be this kind of like hips back, feet out, legs bent, horse stance. Now, the other variation of a horse stance is what we call a ready stance. Now, ready stance, I would equate to, imagine if you were playing soccer and you're the goalie and you got, somebody on the other team on a breakaway and they're coming, man, and they're about to shoot. Now, are they going to go right? Are they going to go left? Are they going to shoot high? Are they going to shoot low? And you kind of get into this like, all right, I'm ready. This athletic stance, this athletic position. If you're playing baseball and you're like second base or shortstop or whatever, man, the ball's coming, like, which way do I move? Am I going to have to jump, duck, dive, jump, whatever? Get your legs a little bit bent. It's not quite like that root yourself, like tug of war stance, but it's definitely not like a natural, hey, I wonder what the guy's going to do next type of stance. It's ready. And one of the times that you use a ready stance is either you hit somebody, and again, we always train that there's going to be another attacker coming. Like if there's one, man, there's two. If there's two, there's three. If there's three, there's four, because there's always one more. So you crack one, like I don't drop to this stance. I want to like try and be as aware of my surroundings as I can, look for an opportunity to run, or if his friend is going to jump in or sneak up from behind, you want to be ready to move. Ready stance. All right, so quick review. We don't count the natural stance. Everybody knows that one. The first stance that you would use in self-defense 101 type of scenario is you see somebody coming towards your personal space, we get the keys and phone and stuff out of our hands and into our pockets, small step back to blade the body, get the hands free above the waist in a non-threatening fashion where they are ready, just able to talk to whoever it is that's coming up to you. Next, we have the self-defense stance. Somebody that comes a little closer into your personal space and you want them to back off. Widen the stance ever so slightly. Hands come up, palms facing away. Hey man, I'm not interested. Please do me a favor. Back up a little bit. Give me some space. Give me some space. If that person becomes a threat, we're going to shift our stance, widen our stance. The feet are in quadrants. I'm not on a surfboard and I'm not on a skateboard. The feet are in the quadrants. Forward, back. Curl the fingers super tight. Thumbs on the outside. Hands protect your head. Elbows protect your ribs and your body. Eyes forward. Paying attention to as much that you could see, picking up all the data that you can of what's going on around you. Bend your legs a little bit, eyes forward, ears open, ready to rock. Prepare to engage. The next one, if we have to drive forward with a shove, a punch, a palm, we're going to shift our weight forward forcefully, trying to keep good posture. You don't want to lead with your face into what's called a front stance. The front leg is bent, the back leg is straight. This is your support. If you let that one come up, the first thing that's going to go is your balance. Pushing off with that, keeping the other one underneath you, in front of you, to help you keep your balance and your posture. If they grab you and they're about to start flinging you around, you want to drop your weight into that tug of war stance, like, hey man, I will not let him move me. And like that little baby that doesn't want to be picked up, you spread your feet out, you bend your legs, you hang on to them if you can, control their head, pull their weight down, look to wherever you can strike them, drive your head like a unicorn horn. After you crack one, or they let go, or they disengage, being ready for if their friend's going to jump on your back, or before I have to figure out where I'm going to run to. It's not quite this low stance. It's more like a goalie or a shortstop, that athletic stance, that athletic position, ready stance. Ready for what? Ready for anything. So remember, in a fight, the first thing you need before the punching, the kicking, the Vulcan death grip, and the death touch is a really good stance and a really good guard and some good focus and some good balance and good situational awareness of what's going on around you. So to keep first things first, practice keeping some good balance. If you're going to do hit the bag or something or practice some moves, make sure that you feel comfortable on your feet and light on your feet, and then you could move and circle and duck and bob and weave and all that type of stuff, which we'll get to in later videos. But for the time being, just remember, keep your balance. Keep your eyes forward, your hands up, your elbows in. If you got questions, put them in the comment section below. If you got the answer to some of the questions in the comment section below, have at it. Help each other. Just be nice, be kind, be polite, be respectful. Be the change you want to see in the world around you. Again, if you've made it this far and you like what I'm teaching and preaching, go ahead and give me a thumbs up and like this video. If you love it, go ahead and click the subscribe button. If you gotta have it, then go ahead and hit the bell notification button, and YouTube will let you know when the next video drops. You can also follow us on all social media platforms at 5 Elements Tactical. You can even check us out at 5elementstactical.com. Well, that's all I got for now, warriors. So until our paths cross again, pray for the best, prepare for the rest. I'm Kyoshi Dave Herman with 5 Elements Tactical Training. Thanks for watching.